Okay, so this is kind of a similar topic to what we covered before. Okay. Um, uh, let's see, and I want to change the directions of this to given the info below, find the remaining trig function ratios. Okay, boom, shrink that, fill, like that. Okay, so we're going to start by drawing an angle in standard position. Okay, as always, so let's start with A. Start by figuring out which quadrant the triangle is in and draw an angle in standard position. Yep. Okay, so now this is how I want you guys to approach A or any of these. Okay, so let's do A right here. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So we can have, in this case, we can have two scenarios. We can have 3 and 7, 3 and 7, based on this right here. Okay. Now, which one is it going to be? Okay, that's where this comes into play. Okay, tangent is less than 0. Okay, which basically just means tangent is negative. Okay, and tangent is opposite over adjacent. Okay. Now, in each of these cases, so far from the yellow highlights, opposite is positive. Okay, if sine is positive 3 over positive 7, or let me just say this, if sine is positive 3 over 7, that means it has to be one of these yellow triangles. And in each of these yellow triangles, opposite, okay, is positive. Okay, so opposite is positive based on the yellow highlights, which means adjacent must be negative in order to make this pink highlight true. Okay, and if adjacent is negative, then we must be talking about this guy. Okay, we must be talking about this guy right here. All right, because in this case right here, adjacent is positive, and a positive 3 over a positive adjacent will not produce a tangent that's negative. So it's not, so we're looking at the top left triangle. Okay, so we can ignore this guy right now. Here, cross it out. So now that's actually the hardest part, is just figuring out what quadrant it's in. Okay, once you figure out what quadrant it's in, then everything else is the same thing. You use Pythagorean theorem. Okay, and I'm going to call it a squared. Okay, I'm going to ignore the negative for now and just do it a squared plus 3 squared equals to 49. A equals to 41. Whoops, what am I doing? I'm tripping out. A equals to root 40, which equals to 2 root 10. So this is going to be 2 root 10 negative. Okay, I'll do that in green. All right, So like I said, the hardest part is just figuring out what quadrant to draw the standard position triangle in. Okay, let's do B real quick right here. Let's see if I can get B done quickly. All right, boom. Okay, secant is going to be hypotenuse. Remember, secant's related to cosine. Okay, so it's hypotenuse. Okay, hypotenuse over adjacent, and this is 3 over 1. Okay, so we have two possibilities right now. Boom, boom. Hypotenuse is 3, adjacent is 1, 1, 3. And that's two possibilities based on the yellow. Okay. Now sine is opposite over adjacent. Okay. Opposite over adjacent. I'll do it right here. Opposite over oh, sorry. What am I talking about? Opposite over hypotenuse. And opposite over hypotenuse is positive. Okay. So hypotenuse is always positive. So that narrows it down to saying that opposite must be positive in order for sine to be greater than 0. Okay? And the scenario that fits an opposite that's positive is the pink highlight also. Okay? And it's the pink highlight is what I meant to say. Okay, so this one goes away because this would be a negative opposite, which would mean a negative opposite over positive hypotenuse, which would produce a negative number, which contradicts this greater than 0. We're looking for a positive number. Okay, so now you're going to get just, again, that's the hardest part, figuring out which quadrant it's in. Now I just do the same thing as we did before. I'm going to call this O. Okay, I'm going to call OPP because O looks too close to 0. I'm going to go 1 squared plus OPP squared equals to 3 squared. OPP equals to root 8, which equals to 2 root 2. And so this is going to equal to 2 root 2. And by the way, you just have to find and don't forget to set up the remaining trig functions. Okay, so for example, let's do B for the remaining trig functions. Okay, let's do B for the remaining trig functions. They already gave you secant, they gave you sine, so we need to find cosine. Okay. Cosine, tangent, cosecant, and cotangent. Okay. And then you just set up the fractions. Okay, give me 1 second, folks. So now cosine would be in this case 1 over 3. This would be 2 root 2 over 1. Cosecant's related to sine, so it would be 3 over 2 root 2. Cotangent's related to tangent, so it's going to be 1 over 2 root 2. And let me just quickly simplify this. You will get 3 root 2 over 4. You'll get root 2 over 4 when you simplify. Okay, let's do this last one, C. Okay, Let's do C. Okay. Let me pull up my unit circle. Okay. Let me actually skip C. C is it's a rare case, and I don't want you to get so caught up on a rare case. Okay. Let me see. Let me look at the problems I'm going to give you here. Yeah, I'm not really too worried about C. Okay, because it's not there's not too much bang for the buck for C. All right, I want you guys to do these right here.